Right, we're on. We're live.
Hormoning.
We're hormoning.
Hormonal.
What have you got in your vape pen today, Barry?
Blueberry.
Smells nice.
Oh,
I like that a lot.
You like it, mate. Yeah, I like it a lot.
So, yeah.
You'll never get this, mate.
I'll never want this, mate. How are you?
Sounds, you know, pal.
You feeling hormonal?
Feeling fucking hay feverish.
Again? You were off on Monday. Barry went home, upset.
I was crying and everything.
He's crying his eyes out.
I was crying, mate. Hay fever.
He'd watched the new Lion King and he brought all the sadness into work, didn't you?
I don't watch cartoons, Steve.
Spoiler alert. Lion King isn't a cartoon anymore, mate.
It may as well be.
It's not. It's an amazing 3D motion. Oh, it's sick. I haven't actually seen it, but I've seen the adverts for it. It looks amazing. But yeah, we're suffering with hay fever, or at least Barry is bad. And I was a bit hormonal yesterday. Do you ever wake up?
I think on that lad pock.
Lad pock? What's a lad pock? What's a lad pock?
Man, I must have swallowed your dictionary.
I'm glad you said sheneri. Otherwise, do you get that joke?
I was going to say then.
It's a good job.
Is that what I said?
Yeah.
Really good job.
Get yourself right into that mic.
Fucked.
So, do you ever wake up with just a bit of a cough?
I always wake up, me, you know. I know, mate, I hope I do wake up.
Some episodes, though, it does look like you're asleep.
Listen, last week. Was it last week?
No, last week you were like active. You were active. You put the world to rights.
I've had hay fever for weeks, mate, and it's fucking ruining me now, mate.
He's on 3 tablets a day.
I took 3 tablets and I didn't realise that they were drowsy. And I sat in the podcast just gazing at Steve, my eyes glazed over and everything. It's fucking bad, lad.
It's funny. You should go and watch it's on YouTube. It's funny.
Show you.
What have you got?
Pocket full of medicine.
Pocket full of medicine.
I don't know what they are. You may give me.
So, an update to everybody watching live, everybody joining us live, everybody listening to the podcast. An update. Last week was 182, a PGR review. If you haven't watched it or listened to it, go back and listen to it.
If you haven't donated, do so now.
Oh, well, here's an update. So last week I said we were 99% sure that all the products were clean. And what we weren't sure about is there was a PGR called Diminazide, one of the worst ones, to be honest. And I wasn't 100% that it had been included in the test, even though that he said it had been. So I was still a little bit nervous, but I did the announcement anyway because they were sure. So I got the email back. Diminazide was tested for. Everybody is still clean. And it's the full hit, 100%.
You can go home and tell your missus he's clean.
Your certificates are printed. They will be sent out. And I hope to see them all framed and out on your individual Instagrams very soon. So that's good. So I'm very Apple. I'm a very happy Apple.
Something in the air today, mate.
I'm very Apple.
Some hormones flying around.
Well, funny you should say that because it's podcast 153, plant hormones, or if you want the science word, phytohormones.
I'm going to go to sleep. Wake me up.
Phytohormones.
Do a podcast where I can be included.
What do you want to be included? Think of a you pick next week's subject.
This, mate.
154 next Wednesday. What do you want it to be on, Barry?
I don't know.
You leave it always up to me.
You think about it when we leave here. Something that'll include me.
You can't tell
me being here.
You can't. It's not because you are the voice of the people. If you don't understand something, it's likely that they don't understand it. You're the voice of the people listening. That's why they love you. Unfortunately.
Let them vote on what they want to hear.
I ask them all the time, the lazy bastards, I swear to God. I say, what do you want to hear? Oh, just keep doing the same thing. We love it. It's great. And Barry just gets annoyed. So there you go. It's 153, plant hormones. Barry, take us away. I'm going to let you do it all. Podcast partners.
I'll just say them dead quick. You know what I'm like, lad. SANlight, AutoPot, CANNA, Revolution, and someone else.
Lad, your best mate.
Oh, Ewan! He was in Scotland just here, seeing him on Instagram.
Was he? Yeah, he's here next Friday.
He came the other day, you know, when we weren't here. He came to the shop the other day when we weren't here.
Oh.
And we were out.
Ewan, the hell, mate.
And German.
Fucking hell.
Ewan the German.
He's not German.
It's a mention every time.
He's Australian.
Oh.
He just puts on an accent.
He's not. He's Mexican. You just don't know.
Is he? So, thank you very much to the partners, AutoPot, CANNA, SANlight, Can Filters, Revolution Diva, the people listening. You wouldn't be able to listen without those partners. So, take a moment to appreciate them.
And then partners need to appreciate you as the listeners.
They do, and they do, because...
See, I'm like the voice of the people.
You are the voice of the people. The voice of the person that listens to our podcast. Thank you, that person in Texas.
Come on, then start so I can go to sleep.
Next week, no, not next week, in 5 weeks' time. In 4 weeks' time, we'll start with the AutoPot Summer Social. 4 weeks' time, industry-only event. Not really worth mentioning on the podcast because
you get cob on and you'll get a cob on.
Oh, yeah, so
you're missing out because it's fucking great. And you won't be there, and I'm fucking awfully sorry.
In the industry, though, if you're a shop and you haven't been yet, I don't know why you wouldn't have been, but you need to go. It's just a great, relaxing, informal. It's brilliant. You get to meet up with everyone, have a beer, have a glass of wine, have a gin on the highlight bar, listen to all of Mills's music, Mills's entertainment, and it's a good weekend. Then the weekend after that, this is the important one for all the people listening, is the Hydroponic Expo. It's in 2 parts. Hydroponic Expo and Product Earth. 2 separate events, in inverted commas, because you got to get through 2 separate teams of security and they're in separate locations, right next to each other though. But the tickets will get you into either event. So if you go on the Hydro Expo, you can have a look at what Product Earth is going on. And if you go into Product Earth, you can nip over and see what's going on in the Hydroponic Expo. Lots of people are going to be there, and it's definitely worth going and checking out. If you haven't got your tickets yet, go and get them.
Haven't we got none for free?
We have.
That we can give away?
We have.
Yes.
We have got 10 tickets to give away for the weekend, and we have 10 camping tickets.
First one who replies, Barry builds his boss gets one.
To be honest, there's 4 people watching now because it is 4 o'clock on a Wednesday.
Comment now, what?
Brian's not going. That's just, he's not going.
He's not allowed.
He's not allowed. His van won't make it. So, for the people watching now, please just comment. Do us a favour, get your mate to start watching or something. You're all getting tickets, everyone who watches live. So, comment. Even if you're not watching live and you watch tonight or tomorrow or next week, just comment, tag us in it, and we'll get in touch with you and get you some tickets out. If you're listening on the podcast, make sure you get in touch with me at NPK_hydroponics. Tell me you're interested in a ticket, and we'll get them sent out to you. And just get in touch. There's no competition. It's just an event worth going to. And it wasn't on last year, and it looks like it's going to be a good year for events. So get in touch. We'll get them all out to you. So, Coatsy, take us to intro.
All good? Ready to go? Turn my voice up a little bit. Oh, God, for everyone watching, the whole family.
Are you ready to go? Barry built a beer in the house that I built in the booth that I built.
I know people tune in every Sunday to listen, but even when business is good, we still manage to do the podcast.
Now, I'm going to get you involved, Barry. I am. I'm going to try my best. To be honest, so the reason for this podcast is, well, we talked about PGRs last week, plant growth regulators, but some people think that things within the plants, the naturally occurring hormones, which can also be called regulators, are bad. And there's it's hard to distinguish between what's bad and what's good, what's naturally occurring, what's synthetically produced. If you spray something on your plant that's naturally produced, what effect does it have? Is it bad? Is it good because the plant naturally produces it? If it's synthetically produced, does that mean that they're all bad? It's a big subject, not being able to cover all of it today, but I want to look at what goes on inside the plant. So there's 5 main hormones in a plant, and we're going to get through them. So it's funny, actually, because you said it's about hormones and I'm staying still or I'm going to fall asleep. Greek word for hormone, set in motion. I love where words come from. So hormones mean set in motion, and it means that once a plant has triggered the effect of a hormone, then it's been set in motion and it's going to happen. So a hormone is, I've got the definition here somewhere. I'll get to that. I want to talk to you about genetics as well, because the genetics and hormones are the two biggest thing that goes on within a plant. So if you've got the best of everything, the best lights, the best tents, the best feed, the best system, what's the main thing that will still give you a shit result? Genetics. Genetics are like the be all and end all, aren't they? But there's another aspect to genetics. Genetics are how a plant looks, how it develops. So that tree over there the way it looks is because of genetics.
The bush, mate.
The bush. It's a bush. Thank you, the people's person, Barry. What makes it not a tree? It's
I'll just stop the chair from going back. That's it.
So this is a really important hormone question.
Oh, no.
You're stuck in front of you, Mike. It's good. So genetics, the way the plant looks, the way it develops, and it's set in stone. But have you noticed that some years your apples on your tree will fall sooner or later than they normally do, and that's due to hormones? Or if you take a cutting from a plant, you can take 50 cuttings from another plant, and you can put them in different rooms and they'll all react differently, won't they? If you put 50 in a cold room, 50 in a warm room, they'll look and act differently, and that's because of hormones, and they play a massive part in how plants behave in the natural environment. So it's like, I'm going to put it into your terms, Barry, the genetic of a plant is how the car's built, yeah? The way it looks, the way it drives, how much power it's got. No, listen to this, because this is good. The hormone is if the plant didn't have hormones, it'd be like putting a blindfold on you and you having to try and get around the track.
No, mate, you've lost me. What you
hormones
should have said there is
allow the plant to see what's going on in nature.
Is like the driver. It doesn't matter about the engine and the tyres and what car it is.
No.
Driver drives.
The genetics is the way the car looks.
Shit, you won't get the most out the car.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man.
But the genetics is the car, the way it looks,
understand
and the
what
motor.
I'm saying to you, let's get back onto hormones then.
No, it's all one part of the family. It's all part of the plant.
I know.
If you've got the wrong hormones, or you don't, or you play with your hormones and you put PGRs in, then you're going to start affecting the plant. So I've written some things down. These are just interesting facts, and this is hormones. So the eucalyptus tree, there's one type in New Guinea, and it can grow 8 meters in 1 year, and that's down to genetics. But what they found out that is different parts of New Guinea. The best environments, it'll grow up to 8 meters in a year. The worst environments, it won't grow that quick. And it's the hormones saying you're in a bad environment or you're in a good environment. You can grow to our full potential. And you've got giant bamboo as well. It can grow 1 meter a day. You like that, don't you? You like that. So good bamboo in the perfect environment. Genetics are fully realised because the hormones tell the plant it's in a good environment to grow to your full potential. And on the other end of the scale, you've got something called the Sitka spruce, which they found one that has lived to 100 years and it only grew to 28 centimetres tall. So you've got all these types of trees, all with different genetics, but the plant knows what environment it's in and will only grow to 28 centimetres tall. The largest giant redwood, wood volume of 1,500 metres cubed. How much do you reckon that weighed? Have a guess.
How big was it?
It was, the largest giant redwood had a wood volume of over 1,500 metres cubed, and I think they grew that.
1,500 ton?
You're close, actually, 1,000 tons.
Far off.
And it can live for over 4,000 years. Interesting shit. So that's a lot about the plant genetics as well. Makes up the biggest part of how a plant develops and how it looks. But the variations of those genetics come down to hormones, and they can change from plant to plant. So photoperiodic plants. Have you ever put a plant on your windowsill?
Yeah.
What happens to it?
Grows to the window.
You
have to keep turning it.
Yeah, it grows towards the light. And that's the hormone called...
Do you think I'm fucking stupid?
Well, you want me to involve you in the podcast?
Explain to these, not me.
I know, but I'm not explaining to you, otherwise you be quiet. I'm not explaining to you. You are the people. I'm explaining to you. You're in front of me. It's easy. Right, Barry. You hormonal today or something? So do you know why they grow towards the light?
Because if they don't, they fucking die.
Yeah, but they don't know that, do they? So,
Well, obviously.
Auxins,
They must know it. Because they're going
but
to
there's
it.
no brains. They haven't got a soul, have they? They don't know it.
Oh, that's assuming.
It's because of Auxins. So when you've got a plant on a windowsill, the Auxins produce on the top of the leaf and make it stretch towards the light. And then if you keep on turning it, it'll keep on bending. And as an example, a photoperiodic plant. When you switch from, like plants haven't got eyes. So how did you know when you switch it from 18 hours of light to 12 hours of light? So a photoperiodic plant knows because of the change in hormones and what goes on within the plant. So it knows that it can initiate flowering because the hormones, with 12 hours of darkness, then it stimulates fruit production and flowering production. When plant leaves drop earlier or later, or fruit set ripens earlier or later, it's due to seasonal responses by hormones. So basically, without hormones, and what we want to get onto is how we can manipulate hormones in the plant to get them to react differently or get to the genetic potential. So Auxins make them grow towards the light when you put them on a windowsill. And then what scientists did when they were trying to find out what hormones were and how they work is they put plants on the side, and in darkness the plant would grow out and up in complete darkness, and the roots would grow out and down, which baffled them a little bit because there was no other stimulus, and that was hormones reacting to gravity. So the roots will grow out and down towards gravity, and the leaves will grow out and up away from gravity. That's called gravitropism, and that's a set of hormones that allow that effect to happen. Interesting stuff. We're getting onto the really interesting stuff. I promise you. Here's the good stuff. This is where we talk about how plants are going to react to what the growers do to them. So get on this.
You're going to blow me away now, aren't you?
You know when you've got your set of roots and you've got something called the taproot, it goes to the bottom. When it hits the bottom, it starts spiraling. So if you don't want that to happen and you want your roots to grow outwards, then hormones within the terminal taproot, they only exist in like the tiny amounts in like the very tip of the root. If you snip that root off, it stops growing towards gravity, stops growing down, and actually bushes your roots out. So you can actually, we all know about fimming and topping and all that sort of stuff.
Do the same.
Do the same with your roots. And people think it will slow the plant down, but some people think they've got these long roots coming out of the rock walls or the jiffies, and they're like, how do I pot that up? Like, cut the roots. You can cut the roots in half, and that's absolutely fine. And people shit themselves because they've never thought about manipulating plant roots to affect plant growth. So if you take off even just the tiniest amount of the root tip, it stops growing down and will start producing roots outwards, stops growing towards gravity. And if you go to the top of the plant, if you got a seedling and placed a black cap over the top of it, then it stops growing towards the light. Like, no matter that, the rest of the plant is getting the light from the windowsill. If you just put like a little black cap over the top of the main shoot, then the hormones just think it's in darkness. It's the very top root, the very top tip of the bud that reacts to the light. So if you put a cap over it, it'll stop growing. At the same time, if you just cut it off, even if it's just the top 3 mil, then it will stop growing towards the light. And that's where fimming and topping comes into it. So these are all auxins. So what we've been talking about, it's the root, it's a plant hormone called auxins. And also auxins means to increase. So it's increasing growth in plants. Definition of a hormone: an organic compound synthesized in one part of the plant and translocated, moved to another part where in very, very low concentrations it causes a physiological response. Auxins produced by all plants, and they're involved in hundreds of responses from the plant, and these are some of them. Shoot elongation. So when your plant grows upwards, it's due to auxins, as long as the shoot tip remains intact. So what do we do if we want to stop vertical growth? Top it. Everyone knows it, but the reason behind it is removing the auxin. It's the auxin that wants to make the plant grow upwards. And if we don't top a plant, it causes the Christmas tree effect, doesn't it? So when the plant contains auxin in the top bud, then it stops all of the signals going to the other branches to grow quicker. It'll make them slow down. So the reason that we top and the response behind it is removing the auxin from the top bud, which stops the top growth and produces lateral growth, outwards growth, bushier plants. That'll work for like a week to 10 days, maybe even 2 weeks. But then you produce 2 new shoots, don't you? And they will contain auxins, and they'll start growing quicker. So if you want to stop them, you top those 2, and they'll produce 4.
Every time you're going to multiply and multiply.
Multiply and multiply. And that, so as growers, if you want to create a short, stocky plant, you've got to top the plant. Quick sort of overview. What's your preferred method? You've got topping, the scissors, fimming, where you pinch it out, or pinching. Pinching is like I've had a problem with pinching. I very rarely top because it slows it down loads. I've always fimmed, F-I-M, fuck I missed. But pinching is where you leave. So fimming is where you pinch it out and get rid of it.
Pinching's like damaging it.
Damaging it. But I've seen recently that when I've done that, the leaves grow and they look all mangled and horrible. They've got holes in them. And when I haven't done that, they look fine. So I want people to. So if you're watching live, if anyone's done that, then you need to get involved. You need to tell me if you just pinch it and leave it there, did the plants get damaged, or have you seen damage? Because I prefer to film it and completely get rid of it.
Just pinch it.
Bomo said Barry looks so interested.
This is what happens when Steve gets all sciencey on me.
I know, but you've got to take it to the next level.
Got to, mate. Yeah.
You just need to
get a guest on with you next week, then.
You need to let your face know. No, trick your face into pretending it's interested.
Well, yeah. I'm more of a hands-on kind of guy. Steve's more of a bookworm.
No, it's like I need to know. I like to know. Mate. I like to know why shit happens. So rather than just topping it and having no clue of why we top or film, it's good to know why we do it. So that's the shoot elongation. Root initiation, auxins called root initiation, which basically it's your Clonex. So there's auxins in Clonex. So basically, Clonex will tell a plant. So you're dipping the stem of a plant, aren't you, into Clonex, and it's the hormone saying to the plant, you should be producing roots, so that the plant then starts producing roots from places where it would never, ever produce roots. You know what I mean? Willow trees, your dad will know this. Snap a willow tree in half, plant it in some moist soil, starts producing roots, because it's got the hormones in it naturally, that when you cut it, the hormones concentrate at that cut, and it will produce roots. So you can root willow trees. Ask him. He's got some willow trees in
Get him on the podcast.
Get him on the podcast next week. He'd be dead interested. Yeah. But so there's one natural way you can actually get young willow tree branches, cut them up, soak them in water, and then if you put that water onto your
that's like a hormone,
yeah, and it will get your plants to initiate roots.
Nice.
It's
I'm interested. Keep going. Keep going.
Fruiting, auxins are a big part of fruiting, because you can actually promote fruit formation without pollination with auxins. It's called parthen carpi. So tomato growers are your biggest users of auxins. So indoors, tomato growers don't have the benefits of wind cross-pollination, and they don't have the benefit of insects unless they introduce bees, which can be a nightmare in itself. So what they do, and I only found this out recently, they spray auxins onto the tomatoes, it pollinates them and allows the fruit to set, and they don't need crosswind pollination, don't need bees, they do it naturally.
It's artificial.
It's artificial pollination, but they guarantee that 90% of flowers will be pollinated and they'll get the best fruit set from them. So it's a good use of using auxins, and that's a part with that. They'll be using, I'll say, synthetic auxins, not going to extract them from a plant, are they? But they'll produce synthetic auxins, spray them onto the plant, and that is a type of PGR, it's a plant growth regulator. It regulates the amount of fruit production, but it's not harmful. And so that's sort of the message I'm trying to get across. Plants produce hormones, we can use them naturally, and it's not harmful. So a long-time plant scientists thought that auxins were the only plant hormones, but they discovered that within auxins there was hundreds of compounds, and we know them now as indole acetic acid, IAA, and others, IAA is like the biggest Auxins, the most common. You've got other ones such as indole 3-butyric acid, and there's another one called there's another one called NAA. I couldn't even pronounce it, so I didn't even write it down. Naphthalate acetic acid, it's called.
Must have been big if you couldn't pronounce it.
Yeah, no, I'm not good at pronouncing them. So for a long time, we thought that, or the plant scientists thought that auxins were the only hormones within plants. And then in Japan, they found gibberellins. So there's auxins is one of the biggest, and then they found gibberellins, and that's the 2 of the 5. In Japan, phone's going mental. In Japan, so they were growing rice in Japan in the 1920s, and what they noticed was that some of the rice plants would grow really tall and spindly and lodge, which means like they'd fall over in the wind. So they were investigating it, and they found that the ones that were growing tall and spindly and shit were getting... Barry's taking his shoes off. Are you getting comfortable?
I'm getting comfy. Ready to go to sleep.
This is a good story. Listen to this. This is
Someone
good.
do me Orlux.
So the Japanese scientist in the 1920s, he saw these tall, spindly plants, and he started investigating what was going on. So when he looked at the roots or the area around it, he found the bacteria. I've written it down somewhere, called Gibberella. So it was a fungus called Gibberella, and those plants grew taller and spindly and shit. It's called like shit plant syndrome or something. And so he was interested in it though. So he got the soup where this fungus was living and developed it and grew it and got rid of the fungus and just had like the broth. And when he fed this broth without the fungus in it to other plants, they grew tall and spindly. And what he found out that the Gibberellus fungus produces gibberellic acid, which is and as we know, a plant hormone. Barry's an absolute... You know, if you don't watch him live, you can all see how much of a bellend he is. You know, if you just listen, then you don't know that he's taking a sip of his orange juice and just like pretending to look interested. It's proper off-putting.
Oh, I am genuinely interested.
Bomo said he'll be getting another bout of hay fever and legging it.
Listen, I should have been sick today as well. I am, Steve. Carry on. I'm genuinely interested, pal.
I have to get this science off my chest because there are people genuinely interested. All 3 of them. So listen. So they found gibberellic acid, and they found that it made plants grow a lot taller. And then they took that gibberellic acid and applied it to dwarf pea plants, and that made them grow tall and spindly. So the point of this for indoor growers is that PGRs, specifically diminizide, blocks gibberellin, and when it blocks gibberellin, it completely stops the plant from growing tall and spindly and keeps it short and stout and stocky. And diminizide has a few other effects, like longer fruit set, all the fruit will ripen at once. But gibberellins are there for a reason, and gibberellins will interact with auxins and cytokinins, and there's a lot going on within the plant. So if you stop if you stop gibberellins, then you're causing a lot of effects within the plant that we still don't understand. And the fact that diminizide by itself is dangerous. You're causing things to go on within the plant that shouldn't happen naturally. If you treat some seeds with gibberellins, they will come out of dormancy and germinate even in the dark, and it causes dormant buds on the trees to kick into life. So the hormones play a massive part in what's going on in the plant. Number 3, cytokinins. Cyto meaning cell, kinins meaning movement or growth. I've heard you get a lot of kinins of a night. What are you saying? Not a lot of kinins of a night time. You don't get much movement, not much growth.
I'm too old.
They've actually got hormones.
What's happening?
And
Have you? Stop daring me, man. Might as well not be here. You know what I mean? Not be here, me.
you fixed yourself.
Yeah.
You're saying
Carry on.
you're important.
No, I am.
Well, act like it then. Puff out your chest and do something. There we go. Cytokinin, it's a plant wound hormone. So when a plant's wounded or in stress, the cytokinins go to the site of stress and heal it up. So what happens? Have you ever like, on the stem, you ever pinch the stem to sort of stop growth or slow it down, and then a knuckle forms and produces a much stronger part of the plant. Well, that knuckle is cytokinin flooding to the site. It causes accelerated cell growth. And what they noticed is when they were trying to find out how cytokinin works, they'd cause a wound on a plant and wash it with water constantly for a few minutes. And that wound would then not heal because the cytokinins have been washed away. And the way indoor growers should apply this is that if you do, some people will snap the stem to create like a tiny pop, which will strengthen
What some people do is roll it a little bit dead gently, and you can feel it all popping a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And then some people, especially in DWC, or if you scrog and you're bending the plant, how many times have you snapped the stem and caused an open wound? And then I've never done it, but if you think, oh no, there's dirt or there's shit in it, and you try and wash it away, you're actually doing.
Just put a bit of sellotape on it.
Yeah, you're doing a really bad thing. So if you've got Gorilla Tape or electrical tape, masking tape,
what makes paper masking tape?
How come masking tape's good?
It's just easier. Have you ever tried to get in between a plant meat and bite sellotape? Masking tape just rips. See, top tip from Barry. See, lad, it was worth me coming today.
To be fair though, if you put like Gorilla Tape, which is proper strong, on a thin plant, like a thin stem the size of your thumb, if you wrap that round and forget about it, then
you can strangle it.
Oh yeah, you're gonna cause damage, aren't you? So masking tape, good shout.
I'm
listening, Barry. I'm listening, Uncle Barry.
Masking tape.
Thank you.
The white paper masking tape.
The white paper masking tape. So don't wash it away. The cytokinins, accelerated cell growth, cause that knuckle on the stem of a plant, and make sure that it's healed itself. So using the masking tape, don't wash away the cytokinins. That's what they're there for. Next one, ethylene. Any idea what that does?
It's not petrol, mate.
I know it's not.
It sounds like though, doesn't it?
Yeah, I look at you getting look at him live. Oh, I said ethylene.
Move over past me that sheet in the laptop, lad. I'll interact with them.
So ethylene. Ethylene is it's a gas hormone.
Ethanol, isn't it?
Ethanol's the liquid, yeah. Different though. Ethylene's like produces the ripening of a plant, and it's the fourth plant hormone. You've got auxins, gibberellins, cytokinins, ethylene, the only gaseous hormone. You ever noticed when you have one ripe banana, all the others start ripening up? Yeah. Specific to bananas, apples, pears. When one starts to ripen early, it produces ethylene, and it ripens all the others up.
I know about this one. Come on, get involved.
Let's get involved. So what do you think the reason of that would be for?
I don't know. It's like a hormone coming out the fruit and on other fruits and telling them that, come on, man, we're ready to die. Yeah, we're ready to fruit.
Yeah. So once one apple's ready, then the whole tree really wants to be ready at the same time. So that apple produces ethylene gas to ripen up the next apple next to it, which will ripen up, produce ethylene gas, and it'll has a knock-on effect. The Chinese learned this because they used to burn incense. So when they'd have their crops out, they would just burn incense naturally. They found that where they were burning the incense produced an ethylene gas as a byproduct. All the fruits would ripen at the same time. And then this sort of knocked on to, it was the Puerto Rican pineapple growers and Philippine mango growers. They used to just start building fires and producing smoke. And whenever they did that, the mangoes and the pineapples would ripen all at the same time. Obviously, with science and increasing, they learned that was the ethylene gas, and it's made as well for if one is damaged. So if a giraffe, the plains of Africa, eats something, eats part of it or part of the fruit, when a fruit's damaged, it also produces ethylene gas. So it's saying to the other apples, the other fruits, listen, I'm fucked. Save yourselves, ripen up, and just finish your life. Produce seeds, which is obviously what a plant wants to do. It's its whole point to produce more seeds, more trees. So damage is another part of ethylene production. That's where the saying, one rotten apple spoils the barrel.
That's why.
That's where it comes from ethylene production. So stress is a big reason for ethylene production. And seedlings as well. Get on this. Seedlings, when they're underground or under soil, if they hit a hard bit of soil or they can't get to the surface, they produce ethylene, which stops them from growing. They produce fatter stems, and then the fatter stems create them stronger and allow them to break through the soil. So the ethylene will stop them from getting through to the top, because if they did get through to the top, they'd be too weak and spindly to do anything. So the ethylene stops them from growing and lets them fatten out, get them ready for breaking above the soil. So it's That's the fourth plant hormone. The fifth one, abscisic acid, ABA. Abscission is the dropping of leaf, fruit, and seeds. I've called this the brake pedal hormone because if anything is wrong in your environment, then a plant produces abscisic acid, ABA. So it's too hot, it'll produce ABA, and which closes the stomata, preserves water. If it's too cold, it does exactly the same, produces ABA, slows the plant down. Because if you're doing 100, I like this metaphor, if you're doing 120 on the motorway and something goes wrong in the car, if you carry on doing 120, something's going to go wrong. In a plant, it produces ABA, which naturally puts the brake pedal on the plant, slows it down. So when things are dangerous, high temperature, low temperature, overwatered, underwatered,
going to a safety mode.
Safety mode. What do they call it in vans? Limp mode.
Limp mode.
Yeah.
That's not in vans then, anything.
Oh, it's the first time I saw it. It was in limp mode. It was in vans.
Fucking break vans, mate. That's what it is. Because every time you get in a van, it comes back broke. That's why you always see the limp mode. Like
you
your
have
car's got a
20-year-old
limp
vans.
No, I don't.
You do. Still work, like, but every time, I'm sure you do something to vans. Every time you give them to me, you do something to them so you can have a moan. All Barry loves to do is moan. I'm going to call him the hormone. You're the hormone. That's all you like to do is just moan all day. Made up with that one, actually. Barry is the hormone. A couple of others are quite interesting. So ethylene within the ethylene in the plant, you get munched. It tells the plant. Abscisic acid will stop too much damage from happening within the plant. When normal temperatures return, the abscisic acid is removed and the plant cracks on with its normal day-to-day life. They're the main five. So it was Auxins, Gibberellins, abscisic acid. What was the other one? ABS, Cytokinins, and Ethylene. They're the main five, but they're the main five within a plant, but they produce a couple of others. Jasminates. These come from, this is jasmonic acid, and this is quite interesting actually. Within a plant, if it has got the ability to produce jasmonic acid, when it's under attack, the other parts of the fruit or the leaf or whatever's being eaten produces this jasmonic acid, which is very, very bitter, and it'll prevent it from being eaten by the pest or the plant or the animal. So
changes its taste.
Changes its taste, exactly.
Just for the people, it changes its taste, mate.
So as more and more leaves get eaten, jasmonic acid increases, changes its taste to be more bitter, and it makes it less likely the whole plant will get eaten. I thought that was interesting. And then that was it. That's the science part of.
I mean, bastard. Nothing else, no.
So Pat Brady has been held for review because she wrote the word whore. But it's so funny. I'm going to show that one. She said hormone, like WHORE. Barry is a hormone. It's quite fun. Let's see some of the comments. Let's see how many people have kept. So hello to Connor, Pat, Indic Headshot, Bowmouth, Anita, Spaceman. I think I know what that is. Let's see if we've got any questions. Barry looks great since giving up the ciggies. Oh, he's more fans, eh? More fans. He's on the vape pen. He's looking good. Question. No doubt moonshine is a great product. Do you guys know what the ingredients are? No. It's a secret. We could find out. We have the ability to find out, but we just leave them alone. Because it is a good product. Especially the foliar spray. And it's PGR free, so it's happy days. How else are we getting any more questions? Why is it when doing one variety, they don't all come out the same? So basically, that was just all about, that was all hormones and genetics. So genetics, your plant should come to the same genetics, but depending on what happens in the environment, hormones will act differently. So the whole point of sort of today's podcast was to give those people that are interested about plant hormones a little bit of insight into what goes on inside the plant. And so a lot of people, they are PGRs, they are plant growth regulators, they regulate what goes on in a plant. But we need to call them PGH, plant growth hormones, because PGRs are now getting a bit of a stigma to them, aren't they? What the bad PGRs do is they affect the natural plant PGRs, plant growth hormones, and they're all connected. So cytokinins, gibberellic acids, cytokinins, ethylene, they all don't just work on one aspect of a plant. They all, in different concentrations, will have different effects on the plant and work together. If you just throw indiscriminately diminazide, which is a completely synthetic molecule, not found in nature, throws everything else out of balance, and your plant's going to just not be in its natural state. So it's important to understand. I know it was a bit heavy on the science. I know Barry doesn't like the science, but what I wanted to do is just give people a taste of the complexity of what's going on in the plants. You just don't think about it on your day-to-day. You think people that do cut the roots, I cut the roots because it makes the roots grow outwards. Well, why? Have a little think about it. Because if you do that and then add negative PGRs, that could stimulate the taproot just to grow on and on and on, and you don't get any lateral root growth, and the plant's inhibited from reaching its true genetic potential. If you top the plant and remove all of the hormones, the auxins in the top, and then throw additional PGRs on top, it throws the whole plant out of balance. And then the worst thing is hormones will absolutely be passed on in cuttings. So if you're messing about with a plant,
then you take a cutting off.
Then you take a cutting, you plant and mess with the hormones, and then you try and root them and it grows. That's a whole new set of plants that are fucked up. Yeah.
Inbreds,
exactly. So for those that like a little bit of light listening, I apologise for today's heavy podcast, but I felt it was important to understand PGRs, or the negative PGRs.
When you want to do a podcast like this, you should change it to like Heavy Steve's podcast.
I like that.
Heavy Steve's podcast.
Heavy Steve's podcast.
On his own.
Nah, I couldn't have done. You
in
know
a
what?
Dark room somewhere.
Listen, everyone.
In Birkenhead.
Everyone, give Barry some support, because even though he thinks he just sits there and doesn't get involved, if Barry isn't there, I've just got to look at the camera. It makes it really hard to give this scientific.
It's fucking great that, you know.
Why?
I'm just here for you to look at.
You are good to look at. You are good to
look at.
No, but I do get carried away with the science of it.
I have to draw you back, mate.
You do, but it's good to get the people's people, the people's person.
It's all right.
But
I don't know.
I tell you what we could do on next week's podcast. We've told people about hormones and how they interact with the plant. We could do plant manipulation.
I like the sound of that.
You're like, oh, you like the sound of that.
I like the sound of a bit of manipulation.
Yes. Barry, top manipulator.
I am good.
Listen, you know, if you asked Brian to fill your boost cup there with some orange, you'd be here in 5 seconds.
That's how you're asking, lad.
Top manipulator.
If
I asked Jalal, he'd tell me to fuck off.
Yeah, he'd tell me to fuck off.
So, here's a question for the group. How do you make a hormone? Where's the heads up on that question, Josh?
Who's asked that?
Josh.
How do you make a hormone?
Don't pay her, little school. Don't pay her. Little school playground. How do you make a hormone? Don't pay her.
I like that.
Yeah. I was like, my brain was going at 100 miles an hour thinking, how does a plant make a hormone? That's like deep science.
I was about to say, fuck you, mate. Don't even get him started. Let's not go on that shit.
Yeah, that's Anita, absolutely rude, Josh. Disgusting.
Yeah.
So, any other announcements that you want to make? Next week's podcast, plant manipulation.
Don't forget your free tickets.
Get involved.
I've decided that next week's podcast is going to be on manipulation. Okay, Steve.
Okay. Slam the gavel down.
What else?
That's been decided. If you've got any questions, get them in dead quick. Got all the shit joke, me.
I'm sorry you won't be at AutoPot. I'll be there having a ball.
You'll be there setting up our stand. Secret stand. Well, that's it, isn't it?
That's it, lad.
We can only keep them short. When it's a heavy science podcast, we can only keep them short.
Any more of that, mate, and I'd have been drained.
I know.
Ears were bleeding. And...
I know, do we? But you've got to give it to the people that want to listen.
Oh, listen.
Science.
They want to listen. They want to listen.
Science, bitch. Right. Follow us on Instagram at NPK_hydroponics. You can follow us on Twitter if you still like to chisel things into stones. Follow us on Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube. Next week's podcast, Plant Manipulation, led by Barry. I'm just going to turn up.
You can.
I will.
Can.
I look forward to it.
Good.
See you all next week. Ta-ra. Bye-bye.
See you next week, mate.
Thank you very much for watching live, and I will see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.